the show going, man.
Hurry up, hurry up! Hurry up!
Hurry up! Hurry up!
Come on now. We're gonna have action soon. Right here. It ain't going nowhere.
Boy, yeah, you got some technique, boy. You ain't show me that this summer.
Hey, wild tack.
Ball at the 5, third down and 2.
That was bad.
Let's go have some fun, bro. We ain't got to talk about too much.
He wasn't playing the ball.
It's holding.
Cliff, the Cliff. How is that not called?
That ain't gonna call a damn thing.
What is the delay for? He's standing right there.
He's taking a card out. He's a piece of paper.
It's that close? Dear Lord.
Dear Lord is about right. Welcome. Yeah, and well, a couple of I don't know who this third person is. It says G on the screen, but I've got no idea.
Mate, I used to have this really cool. This is not good. These are old. I used to have this really cool pumpkin head.
Oh, really?
I have no idea where it is. This is the only one I can find. I just stuck down the back.
Is that a full head one?
Yeah. Like, it could be. The problem is they must make it for people with really big heads. And look, It fits me okay.
Yeah.
But it could be like the ones they have today, like the jaw move. Like some of them today are like unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah. They're great. But,
yeah, that looks a bit. It looks a bit weird because your mouth isn't moving. Yeah,
that's worse.
That's a pretty good effort though there, G. Like, you know, we've been slated for production value before. You know, and some people, you know, they wave their hands around and, you know, do a few different things, but like that's pretty good. Like, you've done a really good effort there. Like, high five, mate.
Mate, what happened to you? You've been in the sun. So that's what happens when the English go in the sun.
That's what I mean. It's just.
And what does AJ bring to the table?
Nothing. I don't have anything. Yeah. I've got my coloured highlighters.
It's almost like you need the hand. Remember the hand out of, is it Scary Movie? Is it one of the Scary Movies where the guy's got the really deformed hand and they go to the mansion, have to stay there overnight? You know, he's got the little deformed hand and he stirs like the gravy with it, and he stuffs a turkey and
what
it's one of the scary. Is it Scary Movies? You know, the rip-offs of the one where they wear the mask. You know, the slasher.
Scream.
Yeah.
But it was Scary Movie.
Scary Movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that blonde. Yeah, he's got this little deformed hand. It's quite funny, actually.
Yeah.
And he touches all the food with it all the time and stuff like that. And no one will eat it. It's a bit like that.
So what's news? Guys?
Halloween tomorrow. Yeah, it's not the same this year, is it? With everything that's been happening with COVID and whatnot, it's sort of lost a little bit of its sting this year.
Yeah,
you know,
I sort of feel counterintuitive to do it.
And Noah's sort of at the age now when he was a young guy, mate. It was like a full on thing. Like we went all out, like makeup, like outfit, everything. You know, and not just the ones you get from like the Lombards or the higher places and all that. We used to go and make up our own, find something that he was into, and then do the whole gig.
I remember seeing him once, or actually a few times, but his costume was always amazing. I have a feeling, was he like Jack Skellington one time?
Yes, yeah. I saw
Nightmare from Elm Street.
I have no idea what.
Not Elm Street. Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. So I did the whole. I wish I had photos. I don't actually have them on my phone. I did the whole. Went and bought a black suit. Like a small kid's suit, and I painted with white paint all the stripes around the whole suit. Took me ages. Did the whole facing, everything. It looked really good in the end.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
But you get the kids. I was talking to a mate today who rang me up because he knows I used to do that in the past, and he wanted his son for tomorrow. And I haven't kept any of it, obviously, because no one grows out of it, so you don't keep it. So he rang me up today, and we're just talking about Halloween. I said, I don't give candy to kids that rock up with just a mask on and, like a plastic, head. Yeah, what is it? The pumpkin head. Or kids that just rock up with a container and they've put no. I've actually said, no, mate, you're not getting anything. Go away.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's a level of effort to a reward.
Yes. No, that's
not just rock around and get free candy. Screw that.
Yeah, and they've probably just been to the discount store on the high street, and everything's like made in Taiwan and China.
Yep.
Which so they're probably dressed there with the, like you say, with the skull, the Patrick Mahomes jersey, and and they're ready for Halloween.
Yeah.
I was thinking today, like everybody on Twitter is saying that the most popular Halloween costume this year in the US is Ted Lasso, which is like, where do you stand on stuff like that? Because that's not a Halloween costume, is it?
No, look, that mate,
it's just
Noah dressed up. No, we dressed Noah up once as the main figure from Call of Duty. You know how they wear they had those masks, but we did it with face paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did the whole thing. And that looked really good. So I suppose that sort of falls in the Ted Lasso sort of area, doesn't it, really? Like, it's not...
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Squid Game, like green tracksuit.
Be everywhere.
The number. Yeah.
I have no idea I know what it looks like, but I've never watched it, so I got no idea. Another one that will go down that I haven't watched a second of, along with Game of Thrones and all the other ones that I don't watch.
It's a smaller investment than Game of Thrones.
Okay.
I would say. It's only like a dozen episodes or something. That's it.
And it's finished.
Yeah, it's done.
Oh, it's done. So they do it. They only do it once.
Well, given the amount of money it's made, because it's been like the most popular show on Netflix, I think, ever.
Yeah.
They'll probably just kind of make another season.
Okay.
But that feels a bit forced because it's a bit one and done. Have you seen it, Ben?
No, I've got it on my list. I haven't watched it yet, but
I won't say anything then. But it feels like a one and done story.
Okay.
It's a bit self-contained in
my
mind. But
I'm more likely to sit down and watch something like that where I know there's an end point.
Yeah.
Than something that just keeps going on, and every season's like, hey, next season, and just lose interest.
The motivations for them to do it is just going to be money, really. But I mean,
it's a motivation for a lot of things, right? Yeah,
but in the beginning, I mean, like I think that the primary motivation was entertainment.
Okay.
But yeah, money will if it's a second season, probably 100% chance it's going to be money driven.
Well, it was like, I think we spoke about this before, possibly, but it was like the series like Lost.
Right.
I started watching, so that's not a bad concept. No one knows why they're here, plane crashes, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple of weeks in, I find out that the writers have done like 6 seasons, and I'm out. As soon as I heard that, I didn't watch it again. Did not watch it again. I was out.
And I can't tell you.
Ironically, the writers themselves got lost. After about season 3, they had no idea what they were doing. Really.
Okay.
Well, yes. So let's not ourselves get lost.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So in keeping with the Hollywood, keeping with the Halloween theme. Yeah. Trick or treat. We're going to go through the full slate of games.
Oh, no. I know. Thanks. This is another Ben suggestion. It would have been quicker to do it my way. I would have been finished like 2 hours earlier.
So listen, not too much commentary because we can't, because there's only 2 teams on bye. That's only one game.
Yes.
Last week would have been a better week because at least there were 6 teams on bye.
We have to zip through.
We will zip through. So game by game, I will read out the game and you're going to give me a treat. I mean, how you've interpreted it, I guess, is up to you. I sort of thought a treat is like a player that, you know, I haven't gone for the obvious, but like a player that I think is going to be really good.
Yep.
And then a trick, obviously someone who's not going to be good.
That's the way I read it.
That's probably pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's start with
a bit like when the hot looking mums turn up with the kids and trick or treat.
Boy.
Don't worry about the treat. I want to see you do a trick.
Holy cow! Yes.
Do I get to pick the trick, or do they pick it? I've never understood that. Who picks the trick? They pick the trick.
You say trick or treat, and then they pick trick or treat.
Do they?
Yeah.
So they Oh, okay.
Oh well, no. They say it to you, do they? Or do you say it to them?
They say it to me, and I go trick. Right. So who then decides on what trick it is? Me or them?
They say trick or treat, or you say trick or treat?
They say it. I say back to them.
Hang on. Are you at the door or outside the door?
Dude, when they open the bloody door, I don't say trick or treat. The person on the other side who's knocking on my door says trick or treat. Okay, we got that. Okay, we're good there. So then I turn around, right, and I'll go trick. Now, who decides on the trick? Me? Or do they decide themselves what trick they want to do?
I don't know. Does anyone go the trick option?
No, it's just easy giving the can, tell them piss off.
Yeah, that's right.
Leave me alone. Stop annoying me.
Oh, man.
I imagine, G, you've gone from, going around with your son, knocking on doors, doing that. But now, like these days, you're the guy with the snakes, the guy who sits on his porch with his snakes and like the shotgun. Like,
get off my lawn.
That's you on Halloween now.
Well, I actually never went with him. He went by himself with like a group of, there's a couple of mums went, but there's like a group of maybe 8 of them, and they all got dressed up.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But they're a bit older now. It's not cool anymore, obviously.
Yeah. So this one is a little bit of a horror show, but Cincinnati at New York Jets. Kick us off. Ben, give me a treat and give me a trick. Or do we just go treat, trick?
Well, I think I'll go with the treat. I'm going to start with my treat, and my treat. Let's face it. Is he already the offensive rookie of the year, Jamar Chase? I mean, come on. Like, if you're gonna ask for a treat, surely you're gonna ask for the biggest treat in the NFL right now. Which, a guy who has absolutely taken the league by storm. Like, he is far and away, the best rookie wide receiver we've seen for some time. We thought Justin Jefferson breaking all the records last year. Should we just relive some of those stats, G? Or should we,
hey, you're catching you, mate.
Yeah, I know.
The boy's catching you.
I'm like this. I'm like, I'm looking over my shoulder and seeing Lamb's like, his hands like he's coming straight over his shoulder, for me. But no, I mean, this was a simple one for me. Like when I looked at the matchup, it was the first thing I, thought of. I was like, well, some of them are obvious, and this one is totally obvious. And I think last week's, performance against a Ravens team that obviously had won 5 on the bounce, they haven't been amazing on their defense. They've got some issues, but for Chase to, completely blow away that offense, it was an absolute no-brainer for me to go with Jamar Chase. And, if you want to know the stats,
no.
It's all right. No stats.
No, because we're just going to do this pretty quickly too, so we don't want to spend too much time. Yeah, that's fair.
So who's your trick
from this game?
Yes,
Joe Flacco. Of course it is.
Oh, he won't be playing.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Is it going to be Mike White?
Mike White.
Right. Well,
Flacco hasn't even. I think he joined the meetings during the week remotely. I don't think he's even been to the facility yet. I'm serious. I don't think it's too quick.
I still think he'd probably got a better chance than Mike White, to be fair. But no, the one that really highlighted to me with this was Jameson Crowder. You know, one of the guy who over the first few weeks, over the last few seasons, just been a reliable option out of the slot, been productive. Hasn't been productive at all this year. Has really struggled even with Zach Wilson after putting up a decent first game. Usually a guy I would never hesitate to just stick in my flex spot on a bye weeks. It's going to struggle, I think, with whoever's behind center.
Yep, fair call. G.
All right, seeing the bench just took up like 5 minutes. I'll go my treat. I'm going to put in CJ Uzomah, our boy. I'm going to put him in. He's not going to put up 2 touchdowns again like he did last week, but there's a very good chance that he could very easily catch, three balls, get 50 yards, and a TD.
Yeah,
for a tight end position that's probably be better this year than it has been in past years for starting the tight end. But still, it's still pretty much a wasteland when you rack it up against the other positions. So I've got him as my treat, and my trick is I pretty much just wrote down anybody in the receiving core for the Jets.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I'm with you. I think I put T. Higgins because I think that now we've covered a lot of the Cincinnati. The only one we didn't mention is Tyler Boyd. I think they're all going to eat. They're all going to eat this week without any trouble. And my trick is Jameson Crowder because, Mike White, or it won't be Flacco, but, as talented as Crowder is, it's just like it's going to be dire for the Jets, unfortunately.
Mate, basically the whole receiving core is what you say.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to a game that's a lot closer.
Higgins last week, AJ, stack of targets.
Yeah, I mean...
on third down as well.
Yeah, he's played a different role, obviously, than Jamar Chase. So he's not getting the yards yet. But mate, if he keeps getting targeted like that, it's bound to come.
Oh, it's all about the targets. If you're getting the targets. Yep.
Okay, next game.
Tennessee at Indianapolis. Now this one's a cracker. This one could hard to pick a winner. Actually, it could be very, very close. G, let's go to you first.
Okay, my treat.
And a trick.
Actually, I haven't got a trick because I left that one. I thought I was going to come back to it, and I haven't done it because it was a pretty hard one to put in there. I'll give you my treat, though. And my treat's Michael Pittman. Just going up against the worst pass defense in fantasy, ranked number 32, giving up 48.03 fantasy points on average. The only defense so far that's allowed over 1,500 yards. Passing. And look, he's likely to be matched up against Janoris Jenkins this week, who's allowed a catch rate of 71%. So, and look, we're starting to see the emergence of an excellent football player. Is he a superstar? Well, no. Could he be? Yes, but at the moment, we're seeing the emergence of a very, very good wide receiver.
Oh, look.
And the catch he took last week in the pouring down rain and just snapped it in the air like it was a drive football and then took it in for the touchdown while stumbling forward was fantastic in those conditions.
Look, I think players like Jamar Chase maybe make things a little unrealistic for us. I mean, Michael Pittman is going to be he already is an excellent football player. He doesn't need to be in that stratosphere, It's fine. Anyway, you didn't have it.
No, I actually couldn't think of one. I thought I'll move on to the next team, and unfortunately, I haven't come back to it, so I apologize.
All good, Ben.
Yeah, well, my treat on this one was kind of an out of the box one, but Mo Alley-Cox, he delivered again last week, 3 touchdowns in 4 games. If you're looking for, even this is, we talked about, I think last week, these bye weeks. I know there's only 2 teams on bye, but sticking a tight end like that in your flex position, why not? Particularly in tight end premium leagues, PPR leagues, he's going to get an opportunity in the red zone. He's going to haul one in. It seems like just obvious right now. So he was my little treat. And I'm gonna throw out a big trick here. Jonathan Taylor. So Jonathan Taylor, who, at the end of the day, let's think about this one. It's Derrick Henry against Jonathan Taylor. And it's going to be great to watch, no doubt about it. But look, Jonathan Taylor, he gives the Titans give up the 6 fewest points to the position running back. So we sort of, I think I did the Titans a bit of an injustice about 4 weeks ago, said their defense hadn't really performed, like losing Jarrell Casey. I think Jayon Brown was injured, but actually they've stepped up, big time, mainly against passing offenses, fair enough. So it will be interesting to see, but I think Jonathan Taylor could struggle, this week. And all these running backs usually have a quiet week. Taylor hasn't really had a quiet week, so maybe it's this week.
I actually thought about putting Derrick Henry in there, actually. Like, he didn't have a great week last week, still scored a touchdown. I think it was only about roughly just over 80 yards. I thought, the Colts' run defense is been playing really well.
Yeah. DeForest Buckner last week against, going back to the 49ers, there was one play where he just absolutely demolished Elijah Mitchell. Like, he was just like, why you got rid of me, guys?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like you, I put Michael Pittman in for my treat. I'm just loving his play. He's emerged for sure. I don't think there's a question now. I think he's an excellent player. And in the trick, it's probably a bit of an obvious one, but Nahim Heinz, who was quite an easy flex. He could be in your flex all last year, Nahim Heinz. Now, he's not startable at all in fantasy. JT has taken over that backfield.
Have you just worked that out after 8 weeks?
No, but it took me a few weeks. Okay, it did take me a few weeks to work it out. You put him in your lineup, he was getting you like 3 points. And you're like, oh, you're joking? Yeah, that backfield is well and truly Jonathan Taylor's now.
Rather start Justin Fields.
LA Rams at Houston Texans. Houston Texans a little bit undermanned, having just traded Mark Ingram. So is that a worry? No, because their team is garbage anyway. Ben, let's go to you for a treat and a trick.
Oh, treat. I don't do this often, but Rams defense special teams. That's my treat. Yeah, you got to feel like they're going to have an absolute, big game here. It just feels like that way. Davis Mills, Tyrod Taylor still not right. So Davis Mills again, minus, Mark Ingram's not a big loss, but I mean, nobody on that offense is a big loss. The only guy who's making plays is Brandon Cooks.
So he's not Tyrod Taylor's not back, even though he's been back at practice this week.
Well, that's what I read today. That he probably wouldn't be available to start. So we'll see. It might, maybe he had another punctured lung. I have no idea, but we can see what happens there. Yeah.
Greatest thing to ever happen to AJ.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yes.
And then my trick. It's an interesting one. Obviously, we heard Deshaun Jackson wants a trade, and he's not going to be playing this week.
Right.
So I think a lot of people might go, oh, right, well, maybe someone like a Van Jefferson is going to get more targets, but I just think that's a bit rich. I think they could get up big early, and I think we'll see a lot of Darrell Henderson, a lot of Sony Michel. So Van Jefferson's kind of my trick, because I feel like people are going to be persuaded to play him, but he's not a massive producer. And he's not certainly, I think, a viable flex spot this week.
G.
Okay, my treat is basically just watching Matt Stafford, the Matt Stafford we always wanted to see. And going up against this poor defense, he's just there's given up like 8.5 yards an attempt. It's just going to be an absolute feast for Matt Stafford. I'm just enjoying watching what he's doing at the Rams after we've seen him just wallow in Detroit for so long, especially ever since Kelvin left, really. And my trick again is I didn't put them in the same order as you, AJ. But I just, mate, how do you play anybody on the Texans? Like anybody? Like I don't think you have to because there's only 2 teams on bye this week. But I thought, look, if Tyrod Taylor was playing, because I've been at practice, you might have a slight pulse, maybe from Brandon Cooks. But with David Mills there, I think, mate, he was lucky to throw over 100 yards last week, to be honest.
Yeah, but Cooks has been putting up fantasy numbers despite all this. But he's the only one.
Yes, but you did different defense this week, mate.
Yeah, I know.
This Rams D is just crazy. You're flying around everywhere.
Yeah.
And especially when you come up against a team like the Texans and a quarterback like that, he might even have a chance to get 10 passes away for the whole game.
Yes. Yeah. My treat, I put Darrell Henderson. I think he's going to well and truly eat. And I think, we're into week 8 now. And I think the question marks about Darrell Henderson you can forget about at this point. He's definitely, what happens next year is a different question, but certainly this year he's an RB1, no doubt.
Mate, he definitely have to be making the coaching staff think about Cam Akers.
Yes, for sure.
Because I don't think Cam Akers is like Cam Akers has been good in spurts, but Henderson's been very reliable for pretty much the entire year so far.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you never want to wish. Negative thoughts on your teammates.
No,
but if you were Cam Akers, you'd be just a bit like, oh shit, this is not good necessarily. Well, it is because the team's winning, but he might come back to a committee. Yeah.
Or the Rams haven't had a first round pick, since like 2016 or whatever, the Goff pick. They're not afraid to make moves. Like if they see an opportunity, they might shift Akers somewhere else for a pick and get back in. So,
they probably need to play him first because who's going to take a guy coming off an Achilles injury?
Yeah, so. That's the big question mark. And my trick is sort of in line with what you guys are saying about how it's really the whole of the Houston offense. But I put David Johnson in there just in case there was like a glimmer of hope that if you sort of thought, oh, Mark Ingram's gone, so maybe I can play DJ. No, forget it. The whole offense is not startable. And Brandon Cooks, his tweet during the week, I don't know if you saw it, when Ingram was traded, was just another bit of evidence of how bad this organization is, when you have your players just like WTF almost.
Well, I'm pretty sure that happens a lot at other football clubs as well, not just the Hearst.
Oh, sure.
They don't inform the players, hey, look, we're going to get rid of this guy. We're just letting you all know before we tell him.
Yes. Okay, to a game that's going to be a lot closer on paper. Again, we're sort of going up and down and up and down. Pittsburgh at Cleveland. A gimpy Baker Mayfield, I believe, will be playing. And Big Ben is gimpy anyway. Just for the stop. He's on his last legs. His wagon is running out of steam. Okay. Who did I go to first before?
I think I'm up. My treat will be the return of Nick Chubb this week, which is a pretty easy one. But he's got a bit of a tough matchup against the number 6 fantasy rated run defense in the Steelers. But I think Chubb would have seen what Dearness Johnson did last week and go, mate, not only was that good, I'll show you something better because, mate, it might be scaring me for a bit of a job. So I've got Nick Chubb. I just think he's going to run all over the Steelers, especially with the quarterback position at the moment, just feeding the ball. And my trick is the other running back on the other team is Najee Harris. He goes against the number 2 defense on yards per carry. the number 3 defense on yards per game to running back. However, I think he will get a ton of work.
Oh, hell yeah.
This week, with Ben being so horrendous and facing the number 4 incompletion percentage and the number 7 in yards per game in passing. So Ben's got a bit of a tough matchup. I could actually put him in there as well, but I thought I'd put Najee Harris in there. And he's had some good games, but he's been pretty hit and miss this year.
Yeah.
And then you add to the front of the Browns, who've had 20 sacks in 7 games and a second in QB pressures. So it puts a lot of pressure on that offense.
Ben, trick or treat.
I thought about Najee Harris in there, but I just thought, look, he's been a solid contributor all season. I think, I think he's still going to, like G says, get a lot of work. So I'm looking at the receiving core, of the Steelers. As bad as Big Ben has been, like, who's going to show up in this receiving core as well? And I think the big one for me, who's really disappointed, has been Deontay Johnson. He's seen a hell of a lot of targets, but his production has been average. He's the wide receiver 71 in terms of fantasy, and that's probably not where you want him to be after 7 weeks. I feel like he's got to step up and do a little bit more. He's had a few bad drops, which coming into his 3rd year, like that needs to be cleaned up. So he was my trick. But I was with G on the treat. Nick Chubb overall, like the train.
Very nice, very nice. I also put Nick Chubb in the treat. So is that a hat trick?
Yes.
And in the trick, I actually put Ben Roethlisberger. But you could put any.
Mate, you definitely either don't like ladders or you don't like climbing trees, mate. Which one is it?
Both. Yeah. So anyway,
you're a fruitarian.
A what?
A fruitarian, where you don't even pick the low hanging fruit. You wait for it to fall off the tree, you just pick it up off the ground because now it is dead.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get to the Philadelphia Eagles at Detroit. Probably not a game I'll be watching, but having said that, there are definitely fantasy players involved in this game. Ben, trick or treat?
Well, this is a bit of a weird one, but I'm going to go my treat. I'm going to go for Jared Goff. I just think he was great last week. Returning to the Rams, there was obviously a lot of chatter, and I think even all of us, talked about not the revenge game for Matthew Stafford, but more the humiliation game for Jared Goff. But it wasn't that. Like, Goff had them, rolling. Big props to Dan Campbell as well. Came out with all sorts of tricks and treats, fake punts, all that kind of jazz, which really got them competitive. And it was only late in the game where the Rams got over there. And Goff seems to be starting to gel a little bit. The running game there is working nicely. Plenty of receptions for Swift out of the backfield, which is what we like. So the Eagles have been dreadful on defense this year, to put it mildly. So I think this could be a cheeky little treat. I think, Goff's kind of a guy who could be a bye-week quarterback or a streamer. So, that's where we're looking for something a bit extra. And then my trick, it's got to be Jalen Hurts for me as well. I'm just going quarterback. Like, Jalen Hurts has been over 20 fantasy points in every single game this season at the quarter. He's a fantasy darling. In reality, we all know that he's not that quarterback who's going to, drive and win you games. And I think he's just going to come unstuck this week. Not saying that the Lions defense is anything, but they did have a pretty decent game again last week. So, I'm going for both quarterbacks here for the trick and treat.
A decent game. What did he throw for? Like 300 and high 300 yards?
Hey,
That's the problem with the Detroit's defense. They're probably the worst part of the defense at the moment is their passing game. And really, if Hurts can't make it work this week, like I've got him in there as well because I've got him in a fantasy team and he's great from a fantasy team. But then you go and watch it and go, how the hell did this guy scored 27 fantasy points? Well,
yeah,
it's just the two just don't add up, and they don't have to. This is the problem with fantasy, isn't it? It's not reality, obviously. Hence why it's called fantasy. But
sure,
if he doesn't do it this week against this passing defense, he's it's just I don't know. Pull the Band-Aid, and I don't know who's the backup at the Eagles are, but because he's not Gardner Minshew. You're not pushing the offense forward in any way. The only reason it's moving is because you can't throw the goddamn ball and you run.
Yeah.
What do you do? Okay, just a quick diversion. I'm conscious that I don't want to make it pretty quick. In redraft, it's a non-issue, but in dynasty, what do you do with Hurts? Because, I mean, Hurts could win you a championship. He's going to be like a top 5 quarterback all year. But the flip side of it is his value is like, I mean, what's his value?
Well, this is going to be the problem with Dynasty. Like you said, AJ, is you probably find the people you want to give him to that have a chance of winning the Dynasty Championship this year probably already have some quarterbacks there because that's why they're at the top of the list and they're battling for, maybe
what they pay? What would they pay?
Mate, I wouldn't. Mate, if I needed a quarterback, geez, if you sort of be aiming at the guy that has half a chance of if he can get into the playoffs with somebody. Yep. Well, then
you'd want to win.
That's a good question. That is a good question because I wouldn't give squat because he's not going to be a quarterback anymore.
No,
and he might not even be a quarterback for the second half of the season. So, I wouldn't touch him at all.
It's risky.
I think if anybody's paying any attention to the season and they're into the dynasty, they shouldn't pay for him either. You're an idiot.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Mate, or I'll give you a 4th round. I know Memphis was on there a minute ago and he's probably going to say you're an idiot, G. But mate, I'll give you a 4th and then hope that Gardner Minshew goes down, gets hurt, and have to put Jalen Hurts back in. But mate, there's a very good chance he's not even going to see the season out.
Yeah. It's risky as anything. Ben.
Oh no, Ben. No. My treat quickly. Before we move off. My treat is TJ Hawkinson. He's going to get the 27th fantasy defense at tight ends. We're giving up 17.17 fantasy points. So he's going to take all that and more in this game without a doubt. They've allowed 6 TDs already to the tight ends. And look, he's averaging around about 8 targets a game. He's going to get more than that. He's going to get 10, 11 targets. And he's turned them into something every time this year. So when he gets the targets.
Yep.
All right, next game.
Okay. No, Ben hasn't given his, has he?
Yeah, I went both.
Yeah, he went first. He went first. Let's go. Concentrate.
All right. I'm sorry. Mine. I went with Kenneth Gainwell for my treat, which might be just like rolling the dice. But I feel like this is a guy they've drafted. And look, Miles Sanders, whenever he's been given the ball, he has looked really good. It's just they weren't bloody giving him the ball. It's ridiculous.
And now he's out.
He's out.
He's on IR.
So I think Gainwell could actually be quite good. We'll see what he does with his touches. And in the trick, I put Kenny Galladay, who's looking pretty ordinary, I reckon. But again, that's...
Kelly Galladay, he plays for the Giants, dude.
Yes, he does. So, yeah, it's a trick. I don't know why I wrote him down there.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
Maybe because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen him at the Giants too much. He's just forgot he's actually there.
Double trick.
That's funny. Okay, next one. San Fran at Chicago. San Fran at Chicago. Ben, you lead us off.
Do I have to? It feels like a miserable game from all
angles.
Look, the treat. I mean, hampered by the weather last week, but beyond that, usually with Jimmy G behind center, Deebo Samuel has just gone off with that yards after the carry. So or contact. Sorry. So Deebo's the treat for me. He's the only treat in that offense that I'm even thinking about right now.
Yep.
And I don't even want to think about the Bears offense right now. So that's that. The trick. I didn't really have a surefire one. I had like 4 or 5 names here, but for me, Justin Fields, just because you feel like he has to do more. Like I'm a big Fields fan. I think he's a great quarterback that under the right team could do well. But this is just a disaster zone right now for the Bears, and you just feel like every time Matt Nagy puts a play on the field for him, it's an actual trick. Like it doesn't work how it's meant to work, and it ends up falling flat on its face. So Fields for me.
Yeah, I had Fields as well. I just wrote down everyone that was enchanted. See, a bit of like enchanted.
Nice.
By who watched him, in the preseason. Now he's turned into the pumpkin, hasn't he? Basically, in the regular season, it's just everything's just moving a bit too fast at the moment. And he doesn't seem like the type of guy that gets down on himself. Yet it seems like it's getting to him a bit. My treat is Khalil Herbert. Like last week against the Bucs, mate, he knew that his offense was shit. He knew that his quarterback wasn't getting it done, man, and he just ran the whole game, every carry. He just carried the whole offense on his shoulders last week for a rookie. He just powered through. Mate, he was incredible. I love watching that. I want to watch him again this week. To me, at the moment, out of a lot of the rookie QBs, the way he's run when he's been given the opportunity is like a guy that really is putting his stamp on the fact that I want to be the running back for the Chicago Bears. This is my job. I want it, and I'm willing to carry this offense if I have to. Yep.
Nice.
Very nice. I had Khalil Herbert as well as my treat. He looked fantastic. Just echoing.
He really did.
Really, really good. And keeping with the Bears, actually, for the trick, I put Allen Robinson. He might get traded.
That's not fair for Allen Robinson, dude.
It being
not his fault. Let's say it's not his fault.
It's not fair for Allen Robinson.
No.
He might be hoping for a trade. To be honest, it might happen. Mate,
Falcons, mate, we'd be happy to have him.
You know where he needs to go. You know where he needs to go that will solve
Falcons. We'll make good.
We'll make the world right again.
Chargers.
You know where he needs. No.
Jeez, like you need any more, you greedy bastard.
Man, he just needs to go to Kansas City. Let's face it. Like put him opposite Tyreek Hill with Kelsey through the middle. Fine, all problem solved.
Yeah, and you cut 2 other wide receivers out. You don't have to pay them anymore. That'd be perfect.
Man, his value would go through the roof.
Oh, nuts! But the way that offense is moving at the moment, and Patty Mahomes, I don't know, just don't know. But that's another story on its own.
Okay. Let's get a little bit closer to home then. Carolina at Atlanta. G, we'll go to you first.
Well, we know who the treat is, don't we? Mate, he's going to go. He's going to go for his third 100-yard game. Mate, he has in the first 6 games as a rookie.
Yep.
He has more yards than any tight ends in the Super Bowl era. In the first 6 games, back-to-back hundreds, mate. They've actually. I don't know who worked out that if we actually throw him the football enough, this is what he could do. I don't know. It's taken him, took him 5 games to work it out. But now that they do, I don't know if that was just Matt Ryan. But definitely a treat, mate. It's a treat watching him. And my trick is Sam Darnold. Like, for the first 4 weeks of the year, he was the number 5 QB.
Yeah, he looked good too.
For the last 3 weeks, he has been quarterback number 27. Oof. He was benched last week. In the last 5 games, he's thrown 4 TDs and 7 interceptions.
Oof.
His O-line has allowed, in the same amount of games, the 5 games, he's been sacked 18 times. And the team's lost the last 4 games. He's only thrown 318 yards in the past 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, it's just, it started off. I just thought when we should, mate, here we go. He's at a team that he can aspire and lift and bring along with him. And he's got out of the whole Jets Gase crap, and then all of a sudden it just completely has fallen in the hole.
Yep. All right.
Sorry.
Trick.
That was my trick.
That was your trick, Ben.
Yeah.
Treat. I thought about Pitts, but look, Calvin Ridley came back last week, so I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley. He only caught 4 of his 10 targets, and that's not like him. But he did manage to get in the end zone. And I just think, if Pitts is going to get a lot of attention this week, which I think they might, whether they, maybe they move the cornerback, what's his name? Deontay. It'll come back to me. Dreadlocks. No.
AJ, you're the IDP guy.
I can't think of who it is.
Anyway, he might move on to Pitts. So, I think Ridley might be able to find a little bit more room in there. So, I'm going to go Ridley. And then for my trick, look, he struggled. I think there's too much expectation on him. Bad quarterback play as well. But poor Chuba Hubbard, not really being the force that, that the Panthers need. And they're really struggling to move that offense, both in the air and on the ground at the minute. So, Chuba, he'll have to be a starter for you, but it's not going to feel good.
Yeah, ironically, in my trick, I've got last year's Chuba Hubbard, and that's Mike Davis.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
This week.
So stop farming the fruit on the ground.
Well,
mate, it's actually gone to the point now where someone's gone and picked it for you, and you're just pulling out the bowl in your house.
Who picked it for me? Okay, well, my treat actually.
Mate, Mike Davis has been non-existent since like week 2.
Well, and a lot of that is to do with Cordarrelle Patterson.
Yes, he was going to be. He was the other trick, but I went with Kyle.
Well, I actually went with Calvin Ridley as well, because I think that the emergence of Kyle Pitts in particular, I think, helped Ridley. And we haven't really seen prime Calvin Ridley, but I think we're going to.
This year, yeah, he hasn't looked right in this year.
No,
Calvin Ridley. I don't know what's going on, but
yep.
Well, he had the personal issue, didn't he? Had the personal issue in the London game, so you don't know quite what's going on. But,
no.
Dante Jackson. Dante Jackson was the cornerback.
Dante Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Jeremy Chin probably played a bit on Kyle Pitts. Good luck.
But I think last week showed that you have to put your best guy on Kyle Pitts now.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. And it won't even be good enough. So
wasn't good enough last week, mate.
No. What is on paper looking like a pretty one-sided affair? Miami at Buffalo.
Oh, Miami at Buffalo. So okay,
Ben,
where are we?
Ben, you go. Trick and treat.
Yeah,
Miami at Buffalo.
Look, treat Josh Allen going up against the Dolphins defense that just ships points for fun. Look, Stephon Diggs has really started to kick it off. Ironically, on the week, that G picked him over my Emmanuel Sanders pick, but let's move on from that quickly. But he's now seeing the production we expected him to. Sanders a big issue, big factor still as well. And missing Dawson Knox, but you still feel like this team's going to get it done with Zach Moss. The receiving the receiving running back now out of that backfield. It just seems to be a well-oiled machine to put up. Like if the Patriots put up 54 last week on the poor Jets, the Bills could do the same this week against the Dolphins. And then my trick is a bit of a strange one, but just because of the defensive matchup, and he's probably won you a few games the last few weeks. But Mike Gesicki, I'm going to go for the trick. Again, probably, a guy who everybody's there to start. But against this Bills defense, I just think you're going to struggle to start any receivers from Miami this week.
Okay. For my treat, I've got Stefan Diggs. Going against the 30th ranked Dolphins against wide receivers. Mate, and you could easily put Josh Allen in there, mate. You could put Emmanuel Sanders this week. Even a bit of a wild card, a bit of a dark horse with no Dawson Knox, Tommy Sweeney maybe to pluck one out this week if you're struggling for someone at tight end. And my trick is Myles Gaskin. He's going up against the number 2 Bills running back defense for fantasy. They've only allowed 3 TDs and still haven't reached the 400-yard mark for running backs this year. That's only an average of like 65 a game. Like, please give us a spell. And his production this year has been, mate, it's been so peak and so valley. Yeah. It's like hiking through the Andes or the Himalayas. It's that the difference has been so vast. It's been happening on a regular basis. So it could be a very hard week this week for Myles Gaskin.
Okay, G, I actually put Myles Gaskin in my trick as well. That Buffalo D-line is no joke. And Gregory Rousseau is looking like the defensive end of this class so far. Well, we'll see. And in the treat, I put Zach Moss for something a little bit different. But I think all the Buffalo players are going to eat. But I think Zach Moss, the Miami defense is, not very scary. And I think with all the other weapons that Buffalo has, including Josh Allen himself, I think Zach Moss is going to find it. He's going to get some lanes fairly easy. Okay, let's go to New England at LA Chargers.
Okay, so my treat here is Damien Harris up against the 28th ranked fantasy defense, giving up 28 fantasy points. They're giving up 5 yards per carry, which is 32nd in the league. They're giving up to running backs 162.5 yards a game on average, which is 32nd in the league. And Damien Harris has been running very well this year. I don't know why sometimes Bill Belichick doesn't give him the ball just all the time. I don't know. Bill's a weird one to work out with his running backs. Ramon Stevenson, who knows what the hell's happening there. And my trick is Matt Jones this week. He's up against a very good pass rush, a very good secondary, mate, who've been on fire at the moment, haven't they, AJ? Like, you must be really pleased with what they're doing. They're fly around, mate.
Sunday Samuel looks fantastic.
Mate, they are intercepting balls, batting them down. They're just getting positions that they're really just putting their bodies on the line this year, it looks like. I think they got a real sniff of taking the whole thing. And it's amazing what they can do to a football. Yeah,
everyone had forgotten what Derwin James can do on a football field.
Yeah, mate, they've had 14 sacks. Matt Jones' O-line's given up 14 sacks to him already this year. I just feel that it's going to be a very tough outing this week for Matt Jones, and they have to travel across. So it's a fair trip as well.
It is. Yep.
Add all that in. Yeah.
Yep. That's true. Ben.
I'll start with my trick. My trick is Jared Cook. I think the Patriots are currently giving up the fewest receptions in the league to tight ends. So, an interesting one there. So I think Cook, who has been a nice little, sneaky tight end each week with his red zone presence. He's the trick this week for me. But look, I'm on the fence here with the two big receivers with the treat. Mike Williams coming off the bye had his issues with injury and kind of threw a dud last time out. But Keenan Allen just hasn't quite seen, the lay of the land from Herbert in and around the red zone, and I think that's something that's hurt his fantasy value a bit this year. Ton of targets, yeah. So I'm gonna go for the big bounce back performance, Mike Williams. Like the Patriots have really, as much as they've been, I guess, better up near the defensive line, their secondary is still very, very dodgy, and I think Mike Williams is just going to be too much for them up there in the end zone.
Okay, G, you and I are 100% in agreement at this one because I had Damian Harris and Mac Jones as my two. So very nice. Again, it's owning a Patriots running back in fantasy is like a special kind of hell because you just never know if this is the week when Bill just decides not to play them, not to give them carries, which he just does. Let's go to Jacksonville at Seattle.
Okay, so my treat this week's James Robinson up against the 31st fantasy defense to running backs, giving up 31 fantasy points. Mate, it's a pretty easy pick, I think, to be honest. The Seahawks haven't been great against the run, and he's been running like a monster. Like it makes the Travis Etienne pick sort of a head scratcher now, doesn't it?
Hell yeah!
Like this guy's an NFL running back that whether or not he's was a free agent or not, it doesn't matter. And anybody, even if your brain's been eaten by a zombie, you can see that. My trick this week is Tyler Lockett, mate. He's having a really bad spell, and it's going to continue this week, most possibly. In the last 5 games, he hasn't gone over 60 yards. Geno sucked. Granted, last week was, mate, hellish conditions to play football in, as far as the rain and whatnot. However, all your fantasy value's been, sucked out of him a bit like a vampire, but there's no stake in the heart yet. So there's always a chance with Tyler. So fingers crossed, but I just think it might not be his time while Geno is the quarterback.
Ben.
I had Tyler Lockett there as well. I just think, I think we saw even last week, it was DK Metcalf making plays, and that's who, Geno seems to be going to.
One play?
One play.
One play, that's all you need.
Well, there's not much other plays going on, is in that offense right now. So,
fucking PPR points, he said. He said, I don't need PPR points, just throw me one ball. I'll get you all the points you need. Yeah. I'm with you there, G. Look, my treat is a bit of a love affair that I've got with this guy. I traded for him, last year with G, and he helped me win a championship. Marvin Jones coming back off the bye. Last time out, 7 catches off 10 targets for 100 yards and a touchdown. He's third of the year. Averaging, 8.5 targets a game. I think, with DJ Chark still out, Trevor Lawrence has shown the willingness, I think, a little bit more to throw down the field, in the last few weeks. And even though James Robinson, it's a good matchup, it seems like they're gonna let Lawrence throw it at least 35 times a game. So I think another big week for Marvin Jones.
Yeah, very nice. Did you give him? Oh yeah, that's your trick. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
and your trick was Tyler Lockett, who's also mine.
Christ, you're not an OC, mate, calling him plays. Did I just run that play? What play did I just run?
And my treat is James Robinson as well, who looks fantastic, and I just think that it just creates more questions about Urban Meyer. Really, we've got lots of them.
Yeah. It's not hard to see how you passed high school and uni, mate. Keep looking over my shoulder all the time. Top of my answers.
That's right. So, Washington at Denver.
Ooh.
Washington at Denver.
Well, my treat this week is
let's get up at 4 a.m. for this one, boys.
Oh, yeah, no. My treat is Teddy's favourite targets coming back this week, Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, you went Jeudy. Wow.
Yeah, up against Washington, who ranked 31st against wide receivers in fantasy, giving up 45.81 fantasy points. They've given up the second most TDs with 11. Mate, Teddy's just going to pelt him with targets. Welcome back, Jerry. My trick is Antonio Gibson, who hasn't gone beyond 70 rushing yards since week 1. It's not going to continue. Though the Broncos did get absolutely hacked to death last week, didn't they, by Dearness Johnson? But you can see that the injury that he's carrying at the moment with the what is the
shin?
The shin fracture,
shin splints or something.
Shin splints like fractures. Yeah, it's really starting to take its toll. And look, you can play him because he's still going to get the work. But he's probably a flex starter if you can afford to put him in that spot.
Yep. Ben.
Yeah, my treat is scary. Scary Terry McLaurin. It's Halloween. Come on, Scary's got to be in there. So, last time out, 7 catches off 12 targets, 122 yards and a touchdown, which, everybody saw was going to the front of the end zone apart from the cornerback who was covering him, who was looking the other way. But, he makes plays every week. And even with, Taylor Heineke there, you feel like he's still going to come out with, 70, 80 yards at least and a score. And last week was the 5th time this year he's had over 12 targets. So, you got to bank on that. I'm with you on the trick, G. Same for me with Antonio Gibson. Just a big disappointment. I also think there's massive questions at Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator. Don't think he really knows how to use those running backs properly. And I'll throw in JD McKissick with that as well, who's been underused. So yeah, same double down on Gibson.
Wow. Okay. Well, I had Antonio Gibson in my trick as well, and I think that. I think they should shut him down. I think they should put him on IR for 3 weeks and shut him down.
Because your defense aren't carrying you this year.
No, and he just doesn't look – he's not getting any better. He just needs to rest. Yeah. They just need to give him 3 weeks. And in the treat, actually, I've gone a little bit contrary to you, G, because I think it's still a Cortland Sutton week this week. I put him in my treat because I think it's just 1 week a bit premature for Jeudy. Jeudy might. I don't even know if Judy's been activated off IR yet. He'll be on a snap count. I think it's just a bit too quick. Like next week, maybe. But this week, I think it's going to be a Cortland Sutton week.
Mate, so. I have him because all my redraft leagues has got Jerry Jeudy.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Who's up next?
Tampa Bay at New Orleans.
Ooh, well, my treat is not a player. It's the fact that you're watching this Saints defense go up against Tom Brady and this offense. So he's throwing 21 TDs, which is first. He's throwing for 325 per game on average, which is first.
Yep.
He's gone up against the Saints defense that is second in passer rating and third in stopping completions. So it's a great defense against a great offense, and I'm just going to sit back and just see how that plays out. So that's the treat I've got. My trick is Jameis Winston, who's going to come on and fuck it all up. This defense is going to do a job, and they're going to keep him in it, and James is going to fuck it up.
Well, funnily enough, my treat, I'll get onto my treat because my treat is, watching what happens on the Saints sideline again because there's still no Michael Thomas. So that means that Jameis Winston has to throw the ball to Traquan Smith again, which last week really pissed him off. You saw them having a massive remonstration, and even like on the next play, they were still coming on the field and they were having jibes at each other. Like it was.
Would you just walk up to Jameis and just go? I'm not with that idiot, like just to piss him right off. Yeah.
But the best thing was like Jameis was like remonstrating with him, and he was like, "Come on, man, like what are you doing?" But he was acting like someone was holding him back, but there was no one there. So he's like, "Come on," he's like, so he was going further away.
He's looking. You can hold me back. Hold me back.
So yeah, look. So that's my treat, but the trick. Ooh, shall I be controversial here? There's always one. It's either going to be.
Yes, say Tom Mayer.
No, I'm going to go with one of his receivers because it's either going to be Godwin or it's going to be Evans, and I think there's just something about this Saints defense and Sean Payton. I think they're going to lock up Mike Evans. I think they just know that Evans is the one at the end of the day that does make that in the big games seems to get the nod. So I'm going to say Mike Evans for a slow week.
Wow. Is Gronk back this week?
No, I don't believe so.
He's still not back?
Don't believe so.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting, Ben, because in my treat, I put Mike Evans because obviously he's on a tear. And yes, you make a very good point that it's like one or the other. Like, is it going to be a big Godwin week, a big Chris Godwin week, or a big Mike Evans week? They both tend to eat, though. But I think given Antonio Brown is out and Gronk is out.
Are you hungry?
What?
There's a lot of eating. There's a lot of eating coming in.
A lot of eating. There is definitely a lot of eating. And in my trick, I actually put Leonard Fournette because even though he has looked fantastic.
I was going to put Leonard Fournette in my agree with you,
This Saints D is no joke.
Yeah. No, against the run.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to eat. I think it's going to be very tough sledding for Fournette. It may even be a bit of a Rojo game, more so than a Fournette game.
No, we don't want a Rojo game because if Rojo does well, and I've got Fournette over everywhere, so I just need to keep rolling. Just keep rolling, dude.
Okay,
AJ, I had one last game, because you're obviously a teacher, so you're good at probably spotting mathematical things. So let's go Mike Evans the last 4 games,
yeah.
11 points, 23 points, 6 points, 3.7 points, 28.6 points. This week, how low are we going, AJ? How low?
And Mike Evans in fantasy is frustrating because he does that, and he does. But sometimes it's okay if you've got other players who have got like a fairly high floor. You can afford to have Evans because Evans will win you a week. He'll have those weeks where he basically will win you the whole week. But then you've got to be able to take the ones where he gives you 3 points, which he will. So, okay, Dallas at Minnesota. Ooh.
Okay.
Cooper Rush.
I'll let
Cooper Rush under center.
No, it's not going to be Cooper Rush. Ben.
My treat for this game was just far too difficult to actually pick. The treat for me is, luckily, both kids are back at nursery. My wife has to work, and my work gave me a free day off. So I'm actually home alone to watch this game on Monday Night Football. Well, Monday through the day. And what a game. I mean, the Cowboys offense, so exciting. The Vikings offense, quite believably also exciting to watch, seeing as though they're letting Cousins, throw the ball deep. And to see our favorite boys go at it, CeeDee Lamb against Justin Jefferson. But also, let's talk about the ground game. Dalvin Cook's back healthy, going up against Zeke Elliott. And, the 2 quarterbacks have been 2 of the better performing quarterbacks, in the league, both in the top top 6 in fantasy production this year. There's a lot to like about this one. So that's my treat.
Beautiful. Lovely.
Why did you mute me?
Oh, because Noah was making a lot of noise in the background.
Dude.
And then my trick. This is a hard one. The trick I'm going to go for. I'm actually going to go for Adam Thielen. I think just hasn't quite seen the targets that you would like. It to sustain drives, and he'll obviously in the red zone. That's where he comes alive. But I almost feel like these two teams will skip the red zone. I think they'll be like, throwing 30, 40-yard touchdowns, or there'll be, big runs from Zeke or big runs from Cook. So I just feel like, there's, even though it's going to be a big scoring game, I think it's going to be a big play game as well. And I just think that maybe Thielen might miss out in all that jazz.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my treat is, again, just watching this passing offense is putting up 8.4 yards an attempt, which is incredible.
Wow. Are the Vikings that good, G?
No,
not the Vikings are that good.
Well, that's because they're not. A 73 completion rate, an average of 302 yards a game against a defense that's chewing up QBs at a rate of 21 sacks, which is first in the NFL. They put more QB pressures. They're first in the league for QB pressures against this offense and a very good offensive line. So, and then we just look at this is what we talked about last week with these two teams not, what was it, by Zilla, whatever they called it last week. This is why, because you guys like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke, Pollard, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, all missing. Dak Prescott, we'll put Cousins in there because he's having a really good year. And my trick is don't over adjudicate this game. Just leave it. It's an MMA fucking in the octagon, and just let them go. Just let them go.
Start everyone.
Yeah, yes. And just don't screw it up. Don't Jameis Winston it.
For my treat, I actually put Adam Thielen, Ben, because I just think that there's so many treats. There's so many treats in this game. I thought, let's go for one that maybe is a little bit on the fringe, but I think there's going to be so much offense that Thielen is going to get some good targets. So I put Thielen in there, and for the trick, I couldn't pick anyone because this, as you said, G, like there's so many amazing players, both sides of the ball. Like, how do you pick someone who's going to underperform? I had real trouble doing that, to be honest.
Yeah. Although AJ, for those of you in kicker leagues, don't start the Vikings kicker this week. Just prime time. Nah, don't do it.
Maybe just don't kick. Just always go for it on fourth down. That's probably the way to go.
Yeah, it's happening a lot more this year too, which is good.
Oh, it is.
Yep,
it definitely is.
Yeah.
And the last game of the week, a lot of interest around this one for certain reasons. New York Giants at Kansas City. G, go.
Well, my treats this week is it's just Patrick Mahomes has to go from Dr. Jekyll and get back into Mr. Hyde, doesn't he? Really? And this could be the week for that. What are you looking at?
Wouldn't it be the other way around?
No, Dr. Jekyll's the sedated one. Mr. Hyde's the monster part. Don't you know the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
I do, but you don't
want to interpreted both ways.
Throw interceptions and
no, a monster, like have a monster game.
Crazy.
Yeah, he really needs it. And there's a few things I'd like to talk about. I've actually listened to Matt Waldman had a guest on this week, and they actually brought up Mahomes and saying exactly the same thing I was weeks and weeks ago about the fact that he's maybe being a bit too cocky with how good he thinks he is.
Right.
Even for the NFL, the way he throws the ball around the park.
Yep.
And not checking the ball down, not using his running backs, not checking down to his running backs when CEH has got 15 yards in front of him, but he looks at him and goes, no, mate, I can throw it 30 and fit it through that, 2-inch window, And my trick is, unfortunately, the Giants having Jason Garrett calling in plays to try and keep up with Patrick Mahomes in this offense. Because he don't stand a chance. Actually, the defense is so bad, the Chiefs, that Garrett might actually look like he knows what he's doing this week.
Yeah. Poor old Chiefs defense.
But he might be chasing a few points.
Apart from Nick Bolton, he's looking good.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I also had Patrick Mahomes down as the trick. I just feel like Wallman. Did you have him as a trick or the treat? Trick. I had him as a trick because I think what was interesting. I listened to that pod as well with Matt Wallman, and I think the guest also mentioned that the rebuilt offensive line is actually way better at run protection than is run defense, run offense than it is in pass protection. Yeah. So like it, you're almost thinking, well, you're setting yourself up to fail here from the start, particularly with CEH out, who wasn't a big factor anyway in the run game really. And I just think that this week the Giants. The Giants are a decent football team. Like it's there's some issues with the management, but the defense is better this year. We talked a little bit about how Daniel Jones is making plays. That'd be interesting, and that leads on to my treat. So my treat's Daniel Jones because I just think he is the guy who's stepped up this year and has won this team games. A great win against the Panthers last week. A spectacular one-handed catch meme that has been doing the rounds. So, I almost feel like we're now going to get the horror meme this week. They're going to try to do something like that again, and it's going to go terribly wrong. And he's a bit like the week before when he was kind of waddling over the field with his concussion. I feel like that's going to be Daniel Jones this week. But no, I think we're seeing him, maybe make a claim for, look, I am a starting quarterback and I can take this league forward.
But I'd take my hat off to him because he has the hatred of a lot of people that don't want him as their quarterback. He knew he was so up against it, and mate, he has his flaws. He probably knows his flaws. I think he's that type of guy. I think he's pretty switched on about what he's good at and what he's not good at. And he has put his body on the line, and he's playing. I think he's playing out of his skin at the moment to prove so many people wrong. I don't think he does it to prove people wrong, but it's just I feel he has more against him as a quarterback than any other quarterback in the league from his own fans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had Paddy in my treat, so we've all got him in some category because I think this is it.
It's it for the whole team, not just him. It's for the whole team. The season.
Yeah. This is the season. I mean, they're still last. I take it, and last in the AFC West. This is the moment. He needs to stand up and make a statement. And people have been talking about the Chiefs all week and how bad they look. This is the moment. So, I think he's going to be stepping up to the plate. I feel like he's got that within him, and we will see it. And it might be a little unfair, granted, given what you guys have been saying. But I did put Daniel Jones in my trick. I just think. I admire the guy for the reasons that you both sort of said, but I feel like the kind of game that the Chiefs are going to have, and despite the fact that the Chiefs don't have much of a defense to speak of, I think it's just going to be too much of a hurdle for him to try and emulate Patty Mahomes, emulate what's happening on the other side of the field. It's just going to be too big a hurdle to jump. But it probably, anyway. Make a valiant go at it. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. We've gone through our slate of games. There was one final, granted, we're conscious of time, but one final thing, G, that you did put on
you can turn off now if you want to.
What's that?
You can turn off now if you want to.
One final thing.
It's got nothing to do with football.
No, it's nothing to do with football. What was it, G, your scariest characters?
No, your favourite sort of horror characters.
Oh, favourite horror characters.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So, mate, this is actually really hard for me. I thought this would be a good thing to do. And then I sat down and started doing it this afternoon, thinking about it. And I couldn't think of 5.
No, I couldn't either.
Because I don't, the horror genre is not something that I watch at all.
But also,
my wife says because I'm scared of horror movies.
I would add in that I think that there's a lot of horror movies that I think are just stupid, and the characters are just not, they're not really scary. There's just like jumping out with a knife. It's like meh, whatever.
So, suspense and tension horror sort of is far better than blood, guts, cut your arm off with a chainsaw and shit like that, Yeah. My daughter loves all that, like The Conjuring and all that. That sort of almost like based on real happenings,
Right.
Because I don't believe in any of that stuff. But so I try to think of a 5. I got down 4. My first one was Jaws, right up until the point until you see the shark.
Right.
And my dad dragged me along to see it. That came out in mid-70s?
Mid-70s.
I was probably like 7.
Oh, Dad of the Year.
Damn, mate. You didn't. And we used to go to Queensland every year for a holiday. Like, tell me you want to go in the water. So it's that suspense that makes. That's what I found scary. The horror part of it. Yeah. And you can't see. You see what's happening to the person, but you never see what's happening underneath the water.
Yeah.
My second one I had down was I'm a big fan of vampires, but I really found Interview with the Vampire an excellent movie. Like, I don't like vampires that turn into bats and shit and they fly around. That was, to me, that was scary in the point of view is it's almost like the people. Do you know what I mean? But the live on us.
Oldman, wasn't it? Gary
Oldman? No. This Interview with the Vampire was Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Is Gary Oldman in that? No, Gary Oldman. No, he's Bram Stoker.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of Dracula. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I like the fact that I like vampires. I like the whole, people that live can't go in sunlight and all that. But it was more realistic than Hollywood that turns you turn into a vampire, bat and you fly away and all this crap. Another one when I was a kid, we went and saw it at the drive-in when Alien came out.
Right.
Yeah.
Mate, when a thing popped out of his stomach, that was it. I was a kid. I was in the back of the station wagon. I'm going to sleep for the rest of this movie. I don't want to hear what's going on. I saw the movie later. The actual Alien was a great character.
Yeah.
And the third one I had was another movie that I saw when I was a kid that was on in the house that I watched with my parents. Was Damien Thorne, The Omen. That was just, as a kid, you're thinking, man, this he doesn't do anything, but all these people are doing some weird shit and things are happening, and when you're a kid,
Damien Thorne. That's not the original one, because the original one is a baby. Are you talking about the next one where he's like a kid?
Yeah, he's like maybe he's like 7.
7 or something. Yeah.
I remember seeing that. I thought, mate, to me that's an old-fashioned horror.
Oh yeah, it's creepy as all get out.
Yeah. The creep factor's good. So
Isn't there a nanny? Isn't there like a nanny? Like very creepy.
Oh
nanny?
Man, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen it. So,
man,
mate, as far as horror, that's pretty. It's a pretty lame group, but that's the best I could do.
Ben, I'll let you go. I'll let you go first before me.
Well, the first one for me, it was my first ever horror film. My brother, is about 10 years older than me. So, he was in his early 20s when I was, 12, and he was still living at home, and he brought home this video from the video shop, as we had then, VHS. You rented it on a Friday for 2 nights, and it was a film called Candyman, which I don't know if you've ever seen Candyman. but it's about a one-armed guy who
with a hook.
with a hook, and basically you say his name into a mirror like 5 times, Candyman, 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 and then he appears and people start dying. But there's all sorts of, it's very psychological. It's that whole idea, the bees were coming out of his mouth, like it was all this stuff that you were just like, I'm a bit like you, G, with the alien thing. It's like anything that inside you that comes out of you, like what's all that about? So yeah, and I must admit, like I think like literally I had like my mates over and having a bit of a sleepover, and we were all like the next day looking in the mirror going, what the I'm not saying Candyman in the mirror. I'm not doing it. So that's the first one. The second one, The Thing. So John Carpenter's The Thing with Kurt Russell, the legendary Kurt Russell in that,
good movie.
In that kind of role. Great movie. Yeah, and just that that whole idea of something alien, but something that looks quite real, that takes a shape and a form and just scares the living hell out of you.
And there's something about being stuck in the snow, like in the middle of nowhere, you can't go anywhere, that sort of adds to it.
Yeah. So yeah, the third one is a Sam Raimi film, and it's called Drag Me to Hell. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's about this girl who makes this sort of like deal with the devil kind of thing, and it's all through the film. It kind of goes, and you think she's going to get dragged down to hell, but then everything kind of works out really, really well, and you think, oh. Right, yeah, but it's scary. And then, like the last minute, the ground just opens up, and this old woman just grabs her and drags her down to hell. Like
spoiler.
Yeah, there you go. Spoiler. There's always a spoiler, but it is one of those films that you can only watch once, because once you've seen it, Yeah. But all through the film, I was just completely gripped, and I really thought she was going to get out of it. Like you just do. Then what? I've got 2 more. So the second
one more.
One more. All right.
Yeah.
The Terminator. The first time I saw Terminator, like when
it's
I saw
action, dude.
Well, it's not really like that. That's
not horror.
There's like them. Oh, what you think? Like trying to what is it? The fake eye.
That's not horror, though, dude.
No, I think for me it was like that whole idea of the end of the world and robots taking over and all that. Like it was psychological. Like I just there was all that jazz in the 90s and stuff. And I remember watching the Terminator and just thinking, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen like next week. Like my dad's just bought me an Amiga computer. It's gonna take over the world and kill everyone.
if I went to the video shop and there was a Terminator in the horror section, I'd say, some fucker's been too lazy to go take this back to the action section. What have you got, AJ?
All right, so we already had The Thing. We had a John Carpenter. I'm going to add another John Carpenter, and that is one of his first. It wasn't his first, but one of his first, and that's Halloween. Spoilt a lot by sequels, but the original Halloween, so the original Michael Myers, very creepy, and lots of shots of like, I don't know if you've ever done it where you've kind of like looked out your window and you'd sort of do a double take, because not like someone walking past your house or something, but like someone standing, like in the dark, you just sort of see a silhouette and you're just like, what? So there's lots of stuff, very atmospheric, lots of stuff like that. Very cool.
And a good soundtrack, like a good
cracking soundtrack.
That one piece of music that they put that just tops it off, doesn't it? It's just
written by John Carpenter, incidentally. He wrote the music for that and The Thing. He liked to do his own music. Second one I put was Hannibal Lecter, because again, it's like incredibly creepy, like if Silence of the Lambs, but in particular, but the other one, Red Dragon, that's got
that's good. Ray
what's
Fiennes.
Edward Norton. It's got Edward Norton in it. That's
Ray
a fantastic
Fiennes
one.
as well. Really
And
good.
Ray Fiennes as well. Yes, that's a great one. There's something about him where you're never comfortable. Like he's just looking through you, you know.
But it's also that those people exist.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. Like you Anthony Hopkins, obviously incredible actor, but like you know that he's just like another level above you in terms of intellect. And he's just like looking through you, completely through you, scary as all get out. The third one I put, actually a little bit of a favorite of mine, I put Jack Torrance from The Shining. Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
Never seen it.
Haven't you?
Oh,
No.
gotta see it.
That's fantastic.
I listened to a podcast this week about it. I've been listening to like these horror podcasts this week.
Yeah.
One of them was about the Antiville horror, about that family, and in the end how it was all just bullshit. They made it all up.
Yeah.
And about the Shining and Stanley Kubrick and all that. What was he actually trying to tell you? Because it was a Stephen King book. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And Stanley Kubrick directed the movie.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of like, what's it about? Is he telling you is there a Jewish part to it? No, but from stuff that's in, or is he talking about what the whites did to the Native Americans?
Yep. There's a movie about that, G, by the way.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it's called like Room 67 or something. Room
Okay.
What's the room?
43?
No, I can't remember what it's called. What the room number is in The Shining. There's this one room in the hotel that's a bit particularly, you know.
Which doesn't actually exist in real life because he made up a room number because if he used an actual number of the room, no one would want to stay in that room again.
Correct. And the movie is all about all of these conspiracy theories people have about the Shining movie, but some of them have got a lot of, like, you watch it and you look at what they say and it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And the last one I put down was
Stanley Kubrick doesn't do anything he doesn't mean to do.
No.
There's a reason these things are in there. Yes.
And there are like these shots where the continuity is messed up. You know, like where you might have a shot of Jack Nicholson in his typewriter, and behind him there's a floor lamp, and then it goes to Shelley Duvall, who's his wife. It might go to her, and then when it goes back to him, the lamp isn't in the background.
Yep.
But when they interviewed the people who were on the set, they said he asked them to move those things. Like he was deliberately breaking continuity.
Yeah.
Which sounds weird, but he partly did it so it subconsciously, if you noticed it, fine, but like subconsciously it would make you really unsettled.
Yeah. I think he's been known to do a scene like over 100 times just because he's not happy with it. So,
and then also just to make people, like, he treated Shelley Duvall very, very badly, like really just he was abusive, but partly he was trying just to make her incredibly stressed out, which comes across. It does come across, but
and what's your final one there, big fella?
My final one, I don't know if you've seen the movie Misery.
Oh, mate, that came up tonight when I was going through, and what a sick bitch.
Yeah. But again, so that's Kathy Bates. And again, it's like that thing where you don't quite know, like you never get comfortable because she's just so loopy. You just never quite know what's going to happen. And the hobbling scene, again, spoilers. Oh my goodness. Like that scene is full on.
How about the breaking of the ankle scene? That's
what I mean. The hobbling where she gets
okay, sorry. Yeah.
The block of wood. She puts the block of wood between his ankles. Oh boy.
I have one last weird horror story, and it's kind of like the 90s was probably the sort of decade that horror sort of started to go downhill, like, as you know, things like Scream. I mean, as good as it is, it wasn't really horror, and you know, it started to take the mick out of itself, etc. But I remember I was flying to the US to go play soccer. I think this was like maybe 2001 or 2000, something like that. And I got on the plane, you know, and it was like a 7-8 hour flight. Okay, it's fair enough. And I was like, all right, I'll put a movie on. So that the plane takes off, the movie starts. And I don't know if you've seen this film, but it's called Final Destination. And the opening scene of Final Destination is a guy getting on a plane, then reliving, like the plane goes up and then it just blows up in midair, and you see it from his perspective. But then he wakes up and he's back in the waiting room in the airport. So he's like had a premonition type thing that this is just going to happen to him. So I'm there half an hour into a flight to the US, 8 hours, and I've just like literally watched the plane crash. I was like, oh, fuck.
You don't
want. My understanding is that anything like that they strip out of the movie.
Well, Delta Airlines did not strip out.
Because I remember watching this movie on a plane, right? It was you might be able to tell me what it was, but it was this movie which had Anthony Hopkins and it had a male actor. I want to say Brad Pitt. It wasn't Brad Pitt, someone like that. And it was like the guy had cheated with Anthony Hopkins' wife. So there's a bit of tension. And they're in this plane, this small plane. And the whole premise of the movie is the plane crashes and they both have to fight together in the woods, and they fight bears and stuff. Right?
I know. Yeah, I know that. I don't know the movie. You
know the movie? It wasn't like an amazing movie, but anyway, they're in this light plane, and one of them just sort of says something like, "Oh, what's that sound?" or something, and then the next thing they're crawling out of the lake. And that's because in the plane they had to strip out all the stuff about the plane crash. So there's like 5 minutes of the movie not missing, completely missing. So they're just like, they're in the plane. Oh, that's a funny sound. And the next thing they're crawling out of this lake, and you're thinking, what the hell happened?
Mate, the plane landed safely and they're joining the Polar Bear Club.
That's right. Oh, man. All right. Well, guys, thank you very much. That was good fun. And yeah, we've got week 8. We've got I wrote week 9 inexplicably on the thing, but it's week 8. We've got a full slate of games, pretty much. There's some enjoyable ones in there. Should be good fun. So on that note, it's looking very creepy, Ben. On that note, thank you very much, Ben. G, on behalf of all of us, have a good week, and I'll see. It's putting me off completely. Have a good week, and we'll catch you next time.